Hi, it's Nicole, and today I have a Studio AE layout to share with you featuring the April 2014 Studio AE stamp set Good Times. And I used it for my title. You can see here the Remember This. The stamp set actually comes with several greetings with the similar type of font, and I used just one of the stamps this month for my title, and then I also incorporated a lot of Allie's other stamp designs from Technique Tuesday into my layout. So I am using a background paper from Amy Tangerine. This is from her Plus One collection. And then all of these frames were also cut from pieces of the Plus One collection, either the Project Life cards or pattern papers or the 12 by 12 papers where you can cut apart the pieces for like maybe Project Life or things like that. I simply just took some scissors and cut out all my frames, all of these frames. I am taking stamps now. This is from the Girl Flair Allie Edwards stamp set, and I'm using complementary or coordinating colors of stamp ink to stamp these circle designs onto pattern papers. These are 6 by 6 pattern papers from the Plus One collection. I didn't use all of the same brand of stamp ink, but rather went through my swatch book. I will have a link to my swatch book here as well. There's a swatch book video so you can see how I keep my inks, and it made it really easy to find ink colors that match the papers that I was using. I didn't want them to be the focal point, I guess is what I want to say, of my layout, but rather more of a subtle embellishment. I just wanted the colors to complement the photos and the rest of the design. I'm using some circle punches to punch out my shapes. The 1-inch circle punch for most of these circle flare stamped designs, and then the 1 3/4 size punch for any of the larger ones. All of these stamp sets that I'm using are linked below the video on YouTube if you want to see exactly from what stamps any of these circle designs came from. I'm using quite a few different stamp sets. I kind of did a mix and match type thing, picking or choosing only the stamps that I thought went with my page. I like to hold on to all of my pattern paper scraps like this. You can see this pattern paper has been used before for another layout, but I went ahead and kept it because it does come in handy. There was still a little bit of paper left there, and it was just enough to stamp and punch out a few shapes for my page. So I'm just continuing to add this. Now, with my frames and my background of my page, I didn't really use any yellow. The background is that teal or aqua color. I'm using some aqua frames, gray frames, and green, but no yellow. And I really thought the yellow would be a nice complement to the rest of the page and a nice accent. It picks up the yellow from the photos, and it blends nicely with the rest of the colors that I'm using. Now you might notice that I had done Remember This up there in the top left corner frame. I actually decided not to go with this one. I thought it just blended into the paper too much, and it wasn't the focal point that I was hoping it would be. So I'm going to be changing up the title here a little bit further in the video as my page comes together. But once I had all of my circles done and everything, and I looked at my page, I just wasn't happy with that title. But I wanted to leave it in here to show you just you can change it up as you're going along. I haven't adhered anything to my page, and I know I've said this over and over in my scrapbook layout videos, but I'm a really big advocate of not adhering anything until you have pretty much all of the elements for your page laid out so that you can make sure that you like what's going on before you permanently adhere anything. There's been so many times that I have created a page only to find that as I get near the end, maybe one element isn't working very well, and I have to pull things up and I end up ruining parts of the page, and it's just really frustrating when you love most of the page but one small tiny little thing, and then you end up making a bigger mess. So I really encourage you to try not to adhere anything until you have it laid out and you're happy with how it looks. My ink colors today, I'm using a couple of my very favorite inks from Simon Says Stamp. They're Audrey Blue and Green Apple. These two inks are a couple that I use all the time in card making and in scrapbooking or stamping in my scrapbooking. I love these colors. The yellow I'm using today happens to be from Studio Calico. It's from their new ink colors, and I just love their inks. They're really nice, and this yellow was just the perfect yellow to go with the yellow in the +1 collection. Now this number 9 tag that I'm using is from the Studio Calico Lemon Lush collection. This is a collection that came out a while back, not too terribly long, but I haven't had the chance to use any of these embossed number tags that came in the collection. I'm just threading through a little yellow ribbon. This happens to be from Stampin' Up, something I've had for a long time. It's a seam binding ribbon, I believe is what they call it. So it ties really nicely and into a secure small knot, if that makes sense, much like maybe a silk ribbon would do. I really like ribbon that doesn't give you that big bulky knot in the middle for the most part. Every once in a while I'll use one of those to tie into a bow like this, but I really like the seam binding ribbon or silk ribbon. They tie into a small knot and they're easy to work with. So I just trim the ends of my bow, and then that accent is well on its way to being finished. I did want to add a little bit more stamping because I love adding stamping into my layouts. And I tried several things before I found what worked, but this is Allie's So Much Heart. It's stamp set. It's a newer stamp set, and it has some fun banners and other elements. And I decided to stamp it with some Versamark ink on vellum, and then sprinkle on some silver embossing powder. This is the super fine silver embossing powder from Ranger. And I'm going to just tap off any of that excess and then heat it up with my heat gun. And then I'm simply going to cut it out with my scissors. I did trim both of the long sides with my paper trimmer, and then I'm just going to pop or trim those notches at the ends of the banner with my scissors and layer that over that number tag on my page. I love how it looks like a pre-made element almost once you have it all finished. Now that I have most of my elements, I am ready to create the background. And I removed everything off my paper and I ran it through my printer to add some journaling since I already knew where all my elements were going to be. I have a wide format printer, so I'm able to run a whole 12 by 12 sheet through. And then I took some white acrylic paint. This is from Claudine and from Ranger. And I really watered it down with some water from my mini mister, and I'm using a paintbrush to splatter my background. I just wanted some subtle distressing, not really overwhelming. So once that dries, I actually went and gave my son a shower and got him put to bed and all of that, and I came back and was able to put together my page. So it dries really quickly, and it's a nice alternative to spray mist perhaps. I found that I'm not really the best with most spray mists, and I prefer other ways of adding distressing to my pages. Now here is that banner that I stamped and embossed earlier. I secured it over that number 9 tag with a little liquid adhesive, and then added some gemstones to the end, some foam adhesive to the back, and popped it onto my page. I'm just going to pop up a few elements on my page, not a ton. I didn't want it all to be real dimensional, but I thought it would be nice to have just a few elements have a little bit of dimension. Now here is where I'm going to add my title. And I thought a multicolored title would look really great here. It's in the gray frame on a white grid background, and it would incorporate a couple of colors that are on the page. And this stamp design works if you're kind of careful because none of the letters really overlap. On stamps where the words may overlap, this doesn't work, but if there's a clear defining line where they don't, you can ink up one side or one word or one phrase at a time. I do this a lot even in my card making. So I inked up the word this with the Audrey blue ink and the word remember with the green apple Simon Says stamp ink. These are dye inks, so remember that when you stamp them, they may look a little blotchy and dark, but as the ink dries and is absorbed into the paper, they even out and I hate to say dull, but they fade just a little bit and really have a nice finished look. They dry quickly, and I'm adding a little Wink of Stella clear glitter pen. If you watch any of my card making videos, you probably know that I use this Wink of Stella clear glitter pen all of the time, and I even use it in my scrapbooking because I just love it. And I'm going over the word this because it's a nice big bold word. I thought it needed a little bit of sparkle, and it's very subtle. I really like it. I've also used it on the aqua frame because the aqua frame blends in a little bit to the background of my page because the background is also the same color. I went around some of the lines on that frame with the Wink of Stella glitter pen, as well as added it to some of the other stamped elements on my page. These yellow acrylic stars are from a Freckled Fawn kit. I think even last month's kit, the March kit. So I'm just incorporating all kinds of things. I really wanted to bring a little bit more yellow into my page. So I used the yellow for the ribbon on the tag and the yellow stars and some stamped yellow accents, the yellow badge there that was up in that top left corner frame. Things like that. I didn't want it to be overwhelming, but I wanted it to kind of have an even representation across my page. The stamped phrase underneath, remember this, that finishes off that title frame, is from an old Ali Edwards stamp set. I couldn't find it anywhere. It's called Bits and Pieces. I'm not sure if you can get it other places, like maybe I need to look, I guess, on the Technique Tuesday site. If I find it, I will put a bubble here on the YouTube video letting you know where you might be able to pick this up. You might be able to find it like eBay or things like that, but it is an old stamp set. You can certainly use any type of little phrase stamps like this underneath it to really be a fun subtitle. So I'm going to continue putting all the rest of the elements on my page here and just get it all put back together, and then I'll add just a few additional details to finish it up. So I felt like some of the words, the negative space or whatever on these stamped circles maybe got lost a bit, and I wanted to draw a little bit more attention to them, add a little bit more detail, color, what have you. So I'm taking the Sakura white gel pen. This is also something I use tons in my card making, but it works wonderfully for this. I am going over the words here on these stamped circle designs in white, and it really draws attention to them without making them overpowering. I love how it looks. It helps it stand out a little bit better, but not too much, if that makes sense. On this one, I didn't really have a clear-cut area to add any white, so I just added a white stitched line, just drew that around that circle design. And I'm finishing up my page with additional little bits and pieces from my collection. Some wood veneer from Studio Calico, like I said, those Freckled Fawn acrylic stars, badges from different places. I'm not sure even exactly where all they are from. Just different things that I have in my scrap stash that really help complete my page. Adhere all of these little things here and there. I did add some foam adhesive like I was talking about earlier to a couple of the circles, but not a lot. Finally, I did think I needed a little bit more, so I added a couple of these phrase little strips. These are from a it's pretty old Studio Calico kit. I've had them for a while, and there were a ton of them, and I think they're fun little things to just add to your page. Fun little phrases. I added the date above that photo there, kind of in the middle, and that's it. My page is finished. I hope you've enjoyed this video showcasing Allie Edwards Studio AE April 2014 stamp set Good Times. The supplies I used are listed below the video on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you next time.